I am very grateful, very happy, very honored to be among all of you this evening. Thank you for coming. In the story of Lord Rama from the Ramayana, we read about the supreme truth, the source of all existence, the creator, maintainer, and dissolver of all that exists. That supreme, all-pervading energy whose source is a supreme, all-loving person who has many names throughout many histories of many universes, of many creations. Often called God, Ishvara, Krishna, appears in this world again and again. This is described in Bhagavad Gita. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirabhavati bharata. That the supreme truth descends into this world with different names, with different forms and different times to reveal the one eternal truth in different languages, in various ways, and in various proportions of that truth. But it is all to teach us in a world where danger, death, suffering are so much interwoven with all happiness, joy, prosperity, hopes and promises. What real happiness actually is begins with who we are. This temporary body and temporary mindsets that we have are described in Bhagavad Gita, vasamsi jirnani yaha, like sets of clothes. But the person, the conscious force, the real you, the real me, is a part of God, a child of God. Like a spark of sunlight is a part of the sun planet. And the innermost potential of the soul is ananda, is happiness. And the essence of that happiness is in pure love, experiencing the supreme love of the absolute truth we call Krishna, and reciprocating with that love. The Lord teaches us how to interact with all the various experiences of this world, the success, failure, honor, dishonor, happiness, distress, health, disease, youth, middle age, old age, all the various transformations, wherever we are, whenever we are, whether it was 1,000 years ago in Egypt, or whether it's in New York City in 2026, or at Radha Gopinath Temple in Mumbai. The same truths are existing, that we're all seeking the pleasure of God's love, but we are forgetful, so we're trying to find it elsewhere. But how to interact with all conditions at all times, with whoever people, in such a way that we cultivate, nourish, and realize that happiness in the love that we are seeking. That is really at the heart of religion, and it's the very essence of dharma, and its purpose of life. And in many ways, in many times when the Lord appears in this world, teaches various lessons, not only by words, not only by those who love them, but by the Lord's own example. Lord Ram and Sita. Sita is Ram and Ram is Sita. The one supreme truth. Sita is the feminine aspect of that one supreme truth, and Ram is the masculine aspect. And the love between the two of them is not only the origin, but it's the ultimate complete whole of all love that exists in all spiritual and material worlds. And yet Sita Ram, they appeared in the role of human beings to teach us not only by example, but by very sacred lessons. And each lesson, we can go deeper, deeper in the emotions, in the philosophy, because they are meant to transform who we are ourself, how we value our own true self, how we interact with other living beings, how we interact with nature, and what we really prioritize and consider valuable in life itself. Sita and Ram were born. One is a princess of a great king, Janaka. That is Sita. And Ram was the son of Dasarath Maharaj. Very, very great, powerful. They were both emperors. Not just little kings, emperors. With vast wealth, vast power. And yet, vast humility and compassion. Nobody wanted to have elections because everyone loved their leader. And the leader loved. And why did everyone love the leaders? Because the leaders loved every citizen. So at that time, the king gives the kingdom to the eldest son. So from the time Ram was born, everyone loved him. They just couldn't wait till he could be their king. Can you imagine when he was just crawling? They were just celebrating, our new king is starting to crawl. They just, even as a baby, he was actually God. He loved them. And they loved him. Sometimes we want to receive love, but we're not willing to reciprocate. Unless we're willing to reciprocate, our heart is not really open to receive. And Sita was the same way. And there's a beautiful story in Ramayana, I'm sure. Raghunath Prabhu, Kaustuba Prabhu, Gaurvani Prabhu, and Sridhar Prabhu, and all of Rukmini Devi, and all the Keshav Maharaj describing these stories in great details to you. But they were married in a place called Mithila. Have any of you ever been there? It's really a special place. I was there 54 years ago. It's probably become modernized since that time. And then they came back to Ram's capital of Ayodhya. And after so many years, when it was finally the time when Sita and Ram were at that age where they could assume the wonderful responsibility of being queen and king of the kingdom, everyone was celebrating. But there was one person who became envious, and due to fear that they may lose their position if somebody else, if Ram takes such a role. And that person influenced another person to be fearful and envious. And the long story, which is many chapters of Ramayana, Sita and Ram were exiled to live in the forest for 14 years. And his younger brother Bharat would become the king. The anguish of everybody except two people. But those two people, they were so absorbed in their own fears and their own insecurities. They were actually really good people. But somehow or other they became so blinded. They didn't really even consider how much suffering and pain their immorality caused everyone. How is it that a loving soul can become so covered over by arrogance? We're so much absorbed in our false conception of ourself that we do the greatest harm to our own self by causing harm to others. So Ram and Sita are playing the role of humans. And they didn't exactly like this situation because they saw what was happening all around. But they accepted it as an opportunity. And the most beautiful part of Ramayana comes next. They go to a beautiful place called Chitrakoot. It's on the bank of the Mandakini Ganga River. And there, under the Kaikeyi, the stepmother of Ram, who proclaimed this exile, Sita had to wear tree bark. Ram and Lakshman had to wear tree bark. They lived only eating raw fruits and herbs that fell to the ground. But they were so happy. They chose to be in a place where great sages, great devotees were living in the forest. They didn't necessarily have big ashrams or anything like that, or marble temples. They were just living in the forest happily. Yogis, sages, rishis. And Sita Ram's great joy with Ram's brother Lakshman. They lived in a little straw hut. The place where that hut was is still there today in Chitrakoot. And they would find such peace, such love, such fulfillment, collecting flowers and giving the flowers to the sages for their puja, for their worship. And once it is written, I'm sure it was meant more than once, Sita told Ram, what a blessing this is. Living in Ayodhya, it was our duty. We were prince, princess, we were about to be king and queen. So many wonderful, loving people, so many responsibilities. But now, we're just living with pure-hearted rishis in the jungle, on the banks of the Ganges River. And what a joy, the simplicity of collecting flowers and giving them to the sages. And what did the sages do with the flowers? They offered them to God. And Ram was God. Sita is God. Some of them just thought they were a prince and princess in exile. Others had the realization, this is actually the supreme truth, the supreme Lakshmi and the supreme Narayan who have come to this world. But because they're playing the role of humans, we will accept their service. Sita is the goddess who is the source of Bhumi, the goddess of the earth. She's Mother Nature. All flowers are coming from her, all fruits are coming from her. All water, all air, all light, all everything and everyone is coming from her. And yet Rama and Sita, they're so happy that they get to serve great devotees of the Lord. Earlier today, for those of you who were here, I'm sure you must have experienced the stone cutters downstairs. There's just maybe 15 stairs you have to climb up. Between these 15 stairs, on the bottom, there's stone cutters. Solid blocks of sandstone. And they're cutting it with these high-powered saws, electrical saws. And they're going, and there's dust flying. And then you come upstairs into the temple room, and everyone's plucking flowers. Now, stone is very hard. Flowers are very soft. When the stone dust gets in your nose, it's very disturbing. And when the fragrance of the flowers go in your nose, it's so pleasing. And big, strong people are sawing the stones. And strong people and little babies And everyone's just plucking flowers. But actually, they're both offerings to the Lord. They're sawing the stone as an offering to the Lord. And plucking the flowers as an offering to the Lord. Which is better? When we look at the final result of the stone and we see beautiful carved stone, we forget all about the sawing. It's a beautiful offering. Arjuna and Bhima, their offerings with the Lord with big clubs and arrows and bows and warfare. And the gopis, they were making the same type of offerings of love to the Lord by making flower garlands. So you see, Bhakti, or true dharma, is to learn how, whatever our role in life is, whatever circumstance we may be in, and whatever we may be having, whether it's our intellect, our abilities, our nature, or the facilities. If we understand that it's given to us by God, why? As an opportunity to reciprocate by offering love to the Lord. From the perspective of Bhakti, the entire creation and everything within it is a facility to reciprocate with God's love. Difficult times or wonderful times, this is an opportunity to reciprocate. So Rama and Sita, they're creating all the flowers that we have today, and yesterday, and tomorrow, and forever. The air we breathe. Bhagavad Gita teaches us in this way. We could just think, oh, it's air. And we may be very angry when it's polluted. But some people are actually very happy making profits because it's polluted. Or we may be very elated when there's fresh air. But actually in Bhakti, air is a precious, loving gift given to us at every moment by God. Why? Not just to survive or to exist or to be maintained. That's also there. But on a higher level, that air is there for us to gratefully receive God's love and to reciprocate with our love. We have a brain, we have intelligence, we have the power to speak, we have the power to sing. And whether we're on our deathbed, just somehow or other, Krishna, Krishna, or whether we're singing concerts with tens and thousands of people dancing. Those are all actually details. That we're grateful for that moment and that power and that ability to reciprocate. So Rama and Sita, in the role of humans, they are so grateful and so happy and fulfilled, living the most simple life in the forest because Providence put them there. They weren't thinking, oh, we could be living on thrones and castles and ruling the world. This is where we are. How to find happiness here. Not just in an imaginative way, but in a real way. What a beautiful opportunity. There's lovers of God here. They're playing the role of humans. There's lovers of God here. There's liberated saints here. And we get to serve them. It doesn't get any better than this. And that was the way they were living. And he wasn't serving by creating palaces for them. But they were going out, just like you and me, and collecting flowers. Just like you and me, plucking flowers. Making garlands. And what an honor. What a beautiful blessing that we could be in the company of pure-hearted people and we could serve them. That was their mood. So God offers the flowers to the saints, and what do the saints do? They didn't just start putting on the flowers on themselves. Sometimes they do, because it looks nice for the Lord. I'm going to divert. There was one gardener named Vishnu Chitta in South India. This is long ago. And every day, Vishnu Chitta, he would grow his own flowers. He would just be on his hands and knees digging the ground, planting seeds and making sure they were watered and protecting from weeds. And then when the flowers were blossomed, he would personally, with his own hands, he would make one garland a day. He would serve in the garden all day long, and the culmination was with his little garden. He would make one garland a day. And he would offer it to Lord Vishnu, his Lord. Now his daughter, Andal, who happened to, one day he was watering tulsi plants, and he saw a little baby under the tulsi plant, and he took her home and raised her as a child. Now this little girl, Andal, every day, she was a very little girl at the time. She knew her father would make the garland, put it just outside the altar, because the temple was closed, and then when the temple was opened, he would put it on. He would offer it to Krishna, to Vishnu. She would go in every day and put the garland on herself, and then she'd look in a mirror and see the garland on herself. Now she's about 6, 7 years old. And she would just be so happy to see the garland on herself. And she tried to make herself so beautiful for Krishna. She wanted to be beautiful for Krishna. And this went on for many weeks. And then Father didn't know that. He would come in when she was gone and put the garland on the Lord. One day he came a little early, and he saw his daughter wearing the garland and looking in a mirror and smiling. He said, "You can't do this." We take the garland after it's offered to Krishna. We don't put it on ourselves before. This is not appropriate. Now I can't offer this garland to Krishna. So he didn't offer it to Krishna. The next day he made a garland and he guarded it. And then he went and offered to Krishna, and Krishna spoke to him. The deity of Vishnu said, "I don't want that garland." He said, you never talked to me before." He said, "Because your daughter Andal has not worn it, it has no value to me." Don't you understand? She puts that garland on because she wants to be beautiful for me, not out of vanity. And that's what makes it so nice for me. It is the bhakti. So Sita, Ram, they're offering the flowers to the sages. And the sages are taking those flowers with great, great devotion and love and feelings, because it's really all they have in the forest, and they're offering it to Ram. Not the human Ram, but the Supreme Lord. And Sita and Ram are seeing this. They're offering with love, and then it's being offered to them back in love. And this is their great happiness. Sita said, "This is so much more beautiful than living in Ayodhya. Just in the simplicity of loving exchanges with flowers." And later on, of course, it's the same God that's ultimately ruling all the universes. Who's finding complete happiness in a loving exchange. To be grateful for the opportunity to serve in every situation, and to just offer the best we could be with our intentions, with our bodies, with our words. That's the perfection of life from God's perspective. Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. When we were at Govardhan Eco Village, I heard one wonderful lady was expressing to Raghunath about the story of Jatayu, which is also part of Ram's pastimes. It's a story where someone who was giving their all in the service of the Lord was defeated, was wounded, and was killed. But yet he is forever glorified as victorious. And the person who won, the person who was in this world victorious, who was motivated by arrogance and greed and exploiting, he's forever in history condemned as the loser. What is success? There's a beautiful story when Krishna and Balaram left Vrindavan. They went to Mathura. When they arrived, they met so many different types of people and had many interactions and gave so many lessons for all time to us. They came to the house of one garland maker. He was a florist. He didn't have a big company. He wasn't a franchise of a corporation. It's just whatever. He would go out in the day and collect flowers, and then he would bring it back to a little hut, and he would make his home. His hut was his home, and with his family, and he'd make garlands, and they would. That was how he made his living. And it is described by Sri Jiva Goswami that this florist, his name was Sudama. He would sometimes go to the forest of Vrindavan, not too far away, to collect flowers. And sometimes he would see Krishna and Balaram playing in the pasture grounds with his friends. And he didn't really know he was God, but Krishna and Balaram were just so beautiful and so playful, and the loving exchanges with their friends. He loved them. And sometimes he would secretly offer the flowers for them. And then he would come back to his home in Mathura, and there he made his livelihood. That's where he lived with his family. So Krishna decided to reciprocate by going to that little home of Sudama. Krishna told Balaram and many of his friends, little boys, they said, let us go here. And Sudama was so happy. He had so little. He stood up, and he greeted Krishna, and he gave him a seat, and gave all Krishna's friends a seat. And he bowed down, and he offered beautiful prayers. He said, today, because you have come to my home, and you're giving me the opportunity to serve you, therefore, my life is perfect, my family is perfect, my home is purified, all my ancestors will be liberated. This is an interesting concept, because there's always a certain degree of love and care that goes into raising a child, yes? Your parents received that from your grandparents, and your grandparents from your great-grandparents, and all of that, and all of that, and all of the loving and caring and all of the efforts to raise the family, and now we're kind of a result of that. And when we lovingly connect to Krishna and offer our lives, then all the devotion, all the concern of all these people, of all of our ancestors for so many generations, Krishna's accepting that offering to him now. Sudama said, because you've come to my home to accept my service, now all my ancestors are supremely blessed and fortunate. And he glorified Krishna from the perspective that so many great saintly people do. That you are the super soul of the entire existence. And you're in everyone's heart. And you're equal to everyone. You do not discriminate. You are equal to give mercy and blessings to everyone, but you reciprocate with those who serve you with love. And then Sudama said, the greatest blessing and fortune in life is the opportunity to serve you and serve your devotees, your friends. He was expressing such profound gratitude for the opportunity to serve. This is what bhakti means. Bhakti is it's not just doing our duty. If that's the limits of our appreciation, we should still do our duty. But bhakti is when we're actually grateful for the opportunity to serve. To please the Lord, samsiddhir haridosha. And then he asked Krishna, please tell me, how can I please you? And Krishna said, any way you wish. And Sudama's thinking, I'm a garland maker. That's all I am. And all I have is a few flowers. So he gave his very, very nice, he made the nicest garland he could with the nicest flowers he had. And he offered to Krishna. And offered to Balaram. And offered all the boys. Because as that song goes, the Lord loves the one who loves those who love the Lord. Something like that. Or in Sanskrit, madmakta bucha piyadika. That those who serve those who love me are more dear to me than those who love me. That's Krishna speaking. So he gave his very best garlands to Krishna, Balaram, and all the friends. And he was just so happy and so grateful to make that offering. It was the ultimate perfection of his life. Because Krishna was pleased. And Krishna and Balaram said to him, because we are so pleased with you, we offer you any benediction. It will be given immediately. He was living in a little hut. His whole family was living in a little hut. They could have asked for a mansion. They could have asked for liberation. They could have asked for elevation to the spiritual world. They could have asked to be kings or presidents, anything. And this is really at the heart of dharma. Krishna offered anything you like, any benediction I will give you, material or spiritual. And Sudama replied, my only desire is to please you and to serve you and to serve your servants. If you must give me something, please give me unshakable devotion to serve and please you. What does unshakable mean? Ahaitaki apradihata. Whatever the circumstance, internally within our own minds or externally within the worlds, unshakable means whether I'm at the prime of my life or on my deathbed, whether I'm in prosperity or poverty, whether I'm sawing stone or plucking flowers, whatever situation I may find myself, let me have devotion to please you. And let me always have friendship with your devotees. Let me always in my life, in any situation, doesn't matter the situations, they always change, but let me always know that I have friendship with those who love you. And grant me this third benediction, that I always have transcendental compassion for all living beings. Krishna offered any benediction in the universe, and this is the three that he requested: unshakable bhakti, devotion, friendship with the devotees who love you, and transcendental compassion for all living beings. And Krishna was so pleased, so happy. That's the perfection of life. Krishna said, I bestow these three benedictions upon you for all of eternity. And there's really nothing else you could want. There's nothing else the soul could ever aspire for. He said, but also, I offer you a very long life. I offer you really good health. I offer you physical beauty. I offer prosperity to you for all of, and for your whole family. And I offer you great strength in all situations. In other words, Krishna was just so overwhelmed, he was just offering him everything. In Vrindavan, the Lord gives us everything and gives us the opportunity to understand that every aspect of creation is an opportunity for bhakti. And that's actually the internal purpose of all creation, to facilitate loving reciprocations. And to the degree we forget that, we're delusioned, and we go life after life after life in the pleasures and pains of this world. Srila Prabhupada gave such simple analogy that when we go to Mother Ganges, how much water is flowing in Mother Ganges? I've been to a place called Kanai Natashala in Bengal, where if you're on one side of the Ganga, you can't, it looks like the Pacific Ocean. My dearest lifelong friend, Gary, is here today. Gary lives in Malibu Beach, California. He lives right on the shore of the Pacific Ocean. But in this place, it's really the Ganges is so wide, you can't, it's I think several miles wide. So if you make an offering of love with the amount of water that's in your two hands, that's the way you worship Ganges. You just take your little hands and you say, Mother Ganges, please accept my love and devotion. And you pour the water back in the Ganges. It's not that she's going to dry up without you. But you'll dry up without her. But yet, she considers that even if it's a little child with tiny little hands, she doesn't really, we judge things in this world that this person offers $1 billion, this person $1 million, and this person a flower. It makes a big difference in this world. What goes on the internet news is usually the quantities of people who have much. But for Mother Ganges, whether you have big, huge hands or little child hands, does it make any difference? We are insignificant from that perspective. But if it's offered with love, with the desire to please, with gratitude, if it's offered as a reciprocation, Mother Ganga, you're the feminine power of God's grace flowing into my life. I'm offering you my whole heart, my life, my body, my soul, my everything in the form of this handful of water. If we offer it like that, then our handful is more valuable than the entire Ganga, than the entire Pacific Ocean. The quality of our intention and our devotion is what gives value far beyond any quantitative material conception. That is bhakti. And yet Krishna in Vrindavan, he's the same Ram, but he's in such an intimate mood of reciprocating with his devotees. He's actually feeling hungry for the love of his devotees. He goes to Gopi's house and steals their butter. And when it's time for his mother to feed him, he's feeling hungry and he's crying. He's crying for mother to feed him. Now, everything she has to feed him, she's receiving from God. Is he crying for the food? He's crying for the love. And that is the sweetness of Vrindavan. That is the sweetness of Krishna's Leela. Krishna not only takes a form like a human, but he's actually crying for and even finding great pleasure waiting for the love of the devotee. This brings us to the flower festival. That's what the flower festival is. We've come together. Almost all these flowers are grown at Govardhan Eco Village. Some may come from some other places, but I believe most all of them are grown at Govardhan Eco Village. And what is going to be happening is, as soon as I end my overtimed lecture, it's not just some people are offering some flowers on an altar. Those people who purchased the property as a donation of their heart. those people who, for many years have fertilized these fields and who are planting these fields and who are, cultivating the seeds and then collecting the flowers. And not only the people in the gardens, but the people who are feeding, who are making the food that the gardeners eat, and the people who are inspiring them with devotion by giving lectures and having kirtans. Everything is coming together. And what's come together? Flowers. Flowers grown, cultivated, and picked with devotion. And it's all integrated with the kirtans, with the lectures, with the organization, and with the management, and with everything else happening. We are all so interconnected when we recognize the truth. And then it's brought here by devotees in vans or cars, whatever it is. And that means you're driving, taking care of the vehicles, and then they come here. And then so many brahmacharis and so much of our community, congregation, they're bringing the flowers and putting them in baskets. And so many they have made, coming dozens and dozens, just happily making crowns and dresses and garlands and turbans out of flowers. And this morning, there's people from various continents, various nations, various religions, various races, various castes, various social backgrounds, and we're all sitting around baskets, listening to Rukmini Prabhu speaking, just plucking flowers. And I've seen billionaires with little tiny children of simple villagers just sitting next to each other plucking flowers. Is one better than the other? Like Sudama, he said, this is what I know how to do, and this is the circumstance I'm in. Arjuna, Bhima, they'll fight a war for Krishna if there's a need. But if there's a situation where they could pluck flowers, they'll be just as happy. Rama and Sita, later on they ruled the whole world. But they were happy just offering flowers to the sages to offer the Lord. And even in the world today, where there's nations that are having wars with each other, there's people from those nations as sitting together as sisters and sisters and brothers and brothers and brothers and sisters, plucking flowers, putting them in the same baskets. And when the flowers are offered on the altar, you cannot distinguish which one you plucked. And that's one of the beautiful things about it. It's not about you and it's not about me, it's about us. We as a community are making this offering. And all the flowers are falling upon Krishna and Shri Radha. They've given us the flowers, and now they're accepting that we've all come together to make this offering of love. And does Krishna keep any of them? He offers it all back to us as Mahaprasad. And then we celebrate when we receive this Mahaprasad by sharing it with one another. And there may be a lot of reasons to be miserable in the world, and there really is. But for the happiness of Krishna and to generate that happiness to each other, we are blissfully sharing the Mahaprasad, the grace of God, with each other in the flower shower. Thank you very much.